I remember staring at my phone, sipping coffee, when the text flashed, "Don't reach out." Just like that, after 3 quiet years. My Uncle Milo later told me everything my family hid, changing how I saw everyone. Now, seeing their faces last week, frozen as I walked in with my $2.5 million trust papers, well, you just wouldn't believe it. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know. It was a Tuesday afternoon, gray and chilly, just like my mood. I was in my tiny apartment, the one I could barely afford, trying to warm up a can of soup. My fingers were cold, and my stomach felt hollow. I scrolled through old pictures on my phone, pictures of family gatherings, big smiles, arms slung around shoulders. My mom, Sylvia, laughing with my dad, Arthur. My cousin, Brenda, making a silly face. Me, right there in the middle of it all, feeling like I belonged. That was over 3 years ago. 3 years since the day everything just stopped. I remember the day it all changed so clearly. It wasn't a huge fight, not like you see in movies. It was quieter, more insidious. It started with my grandmother's will. Grandma Helen had always been the rock of our family, the one who held us all together. She passed away peacefully in her sleep, a few months before everything went dark for me. Her will was read a few weeks after the funeral. I was there, sitting beside Mom and Dad, listening to Mr. Albright, the family lawyer, drone on. Most of it was straightforward: the house to Mom, some investments split between her and Uncle Milo, sentimental items passed down. Then he got to a specific clause, something about a trust for me. A substantial one, set up years ago by my grandfather, meant to mature when I turned 25. And to Audrey, a trust account, established by her grandfather, holding assets now valued at approximately $2,500,000, to be released on her 20th birthday, Mr. Albright announced, his voice flat. I swear, the air in that room just froze. My mom's hand, which had been resting lightly on my arm, suddenly went stiff. Dad cleared his throat, a sharp, uncomfortable sound. Brenda, usually so bubbly, looked down at her lap. I was only 22 then, so the money was still 3 years away, but it felt like a lifetime. I didn't think much of it, just a nice, far-off safety net. I even whispered to Mom, "Wow, isn't that something?" Grandpa was always so thoughtful. She just gave me a tight, almost forced smile. That was the last normal conversation I had with my family. Over the next few days, things got weird. Calls started going straight to voicemail. Texts from me went unanswered. When I showed up at Mom and Dad's house unannounced, the door was answered by Brenda, who looked at me like I was a stranger. "Oh, hey, Audrey," she said, her voice strained. "Mom and Dad aren't really up for visitors right now." "What?" I wanted to see them," I said, confusion creeping in. "Is everything okay? Are they sick?" Brenda shifted her weight. No, just busy. You know how it is. Family stuff." She wouldn't meet my eyes. It felt like a punch to the gut. What family stuff? I was family. I tried calling again later, several times. Nothing. Then came the text. Not from Mom, not from Dad, but from a group chat that included Mom, Dad, Brenda, and even Aunt Bev. Just those 3 words: "Don't reach out." No explanation. No goodbye. Just a wall of silence. I remember reading it over and over, my breath catching in my throat. It felt like a bad dream. One moment, I was part of a loving, close-knit family. The next, I was an outsider, cast away without a word. I called Uncle Milo, my mom's brother, but his phone rang endlessly too. It was like a coordinated effort, a sudden, brutal excommunication. My world, which had felt so stable, completely splintered. I spent weeks in a daze, replaying every interaction, searching for a clue, a reason. Had I done something wrong? Said something offensive? The only new information was about Grandpa's trust, and that felt so far-fetched, so mercenary, that I pushed it away. My family wouldn't abandon me over money, right? That thought scared me more than anything. My bank account dwindled. I was a part-time barista, and it just wasn't enough to cover my rent and basic needs alone. I had always relied on my parents for a little help here and there, a small buffer. Now, that was gone. The humiliation was crushing. I couldn't understand it. My own family, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, had thrown me away like trash. I felt a deep, raw ache in my chest that wouldn't go away. I started taking extra shifts, picking up odd jobs. I was always tired, always worried. The quiet in my life was deafening. It wasn't just the lack of phone calls or texts, it was the absence of familiar faces at holidays, the empty chair at my birthday dinner. My 23rd birthday, my 24th, they all passed in desolate silence. Each ignored call, each unanswered text was a tiny knife twist, reminding me of what I'd lost. I'd cry myself to sleep sometimes, just wishing for an explanation, any explanation. But there was nothing, just that chilling instruction, don't reach out. It became a mantra of my abandonment, a constant whisper of their rejection. It was a dark, lonely period, full of questions and not a single answer. The first year was a blur of survival. I worked, I ate instant noodles, I avoided places where I might run into my family. The shame of being cut off was a heavy cloak. How do you explain to friends that your entire family just ghosted you? Most people wouldn't believe it. I started telling people I didn't have much family left, that they lived far away. It was easier than trying to untangle the truth, which I didn't even understand myself. My birthday, my 23rd, came and went without a single card or call. I felt like a forgotten ghost, walking through the world. Then, about a year and a half after the initial blackout, I got a text. It wasn't from Mom or Dad or Brenda. It was from Uncle Milo. It was short, just a simple, "Hey Audrey, thinking of you. Everything okay?" My heart leaped. I stared at the message, tears welling up in my eyes. After so long, a sign of life from one of them. I typed back instantly, "Uncle Milo. I've been trying to reach everyone. No, everything is definitely not okay. What's going on?" His reply came quickly, "Can't talk here. Meet me. The old diner, Thursday at 7 p.m.? Alone, please." My hands shook as I agreed. Thursday felt like an eternity away. I spent the next few days a nervous wreck, imagining all sorts of scenarios. Maybe they wanted me back. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. I tried not to get my hopes up too much, but a tiny spark of hope flickered within me. When I walked into the diner, Uncle Milo was already there, nursing a coffee. He looked different, older, a little more tired. He still had that kind, gentle look in his eyes, though. He stood up and gave me a tight hug, a real hug, not the stiff kind I remembered from that while reading. It felt good, so good, to feel family again. "Audrey, you look thin," he said, his brow furrowing. "Yeah, well, it's been a rough couple of years," I replied, my voice catching. "Uncle Milo, please, tell me what happened. Why did everyone just shut me out?" He sighed, taking a sip of his coffee. "It's complicated, sweetie. And ugly. Really ugly." He looked around, lowering his voice. "It's about Grandma Helen's will. And your grandpa's trust." My stomach tightened. "The money," I whispered. "But it's not even mine yet. It's for when I turn 25. "Exactly," he said, leaning forward. "That's the problem. Your mom, your dad, Brenda, they all thought they were going to get a bigger share of Grandma Helen's money. Arthur, your dad, he always had some investment ideas. Risky ones. And they'd been struggling a bit, quietly. Grandma Helen was helping them out, but after she passed, that stopped. When Mr. Albright read the will, and the amount of your trust came out, they saw it as money that could be theirs, if only you weren't in the picture." I blinked, trying to process his words. "What are you saying? They cut me off because of money? But why don't reach out?" "Because Uncle Milo said," his voice dropping even lower, "there was a clause. Your grandfather, he was a very clever, very cautious man. He knew family dynamics. The trust was designed to be ironclad, but there was a stipulation. If you, Audrey, willingly and completely severed ties with your immediate family, meaning Sylvia, Arthur, and Brenda, before your 20th birthday, and if they could prove you had done so, then the trust would revert to a contingency. It would be split among Sylvia, Arthur, and Brenda, but only if they could show you were the one who broke contact." My jaw dropped. "What? Are you serious?" But they cut me off. They sent me that text." "Yes, exactly," he said, looking pained. "They orchestrated it. They told Mr. Albright that they were having serious family issues with you and that you were the one who was pushing them away. They manipulated the situation, sent you that text, and then ignored all your attempts to reach out. They even blocked my calls, thinking I might try to warn you. They wanted to make it look like you were the one who abandoned them so that when your 20th birthday came, they could claim you'd broken contact and the trust would go to them. They were relying on your humiliation, your pride, to keep you from fighting back, to keep you silent. I felt a cold rage spread through me. It wasn't just abandonment, it was calculated, cruel manipulation. They had lied, cheated, and destroyed my life for money. $2.5 million. That was the price tag on my family. They wanted me to be alone, to flounder, so they could get their hands on Grandpa's money, I whispered, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. They literally tried to ruin my life, just so they could get rich. I'm so sorry, Audrey, Uncle Milo said, his eyes filled with genuine sadness. I tried to speak to them, to tell them how wrong it was, but they just shut me out too. I only recently found a way to contact you because I swapped out my old phone for a new number and they didn't have it. I couldn't stand it anymore, watching you struggle, knowing what they were doing. So, if I don't reach out and they claim I cut them off, then they get the money? I asked, a new resolve hardening my voice. That's what they're banking on, he confirmed. But Mr. Albright, he's a good man. He was uncomfortable with their story. He said he'd need substantial proof. And if he finds out they manipulated you, that they were the ones who sent that text, well, that changes everything. The trust will still go to you, and they might even face legal consequences for fraud. A plan, cold and sharp, began to form in my mind. The humiliation I'd felt, the pain, the loneliness, it suddenly found a target. My 25th birthday was only 6 months away. Uncle Milo, I said, looking him straight in the eye, I need your help. I need to prove they cut me off. I need to get what's mine. And I need to make them understand what they did. He nodded slowly. Anything, Audrey. Anything to make this right. Over the next 6 months, Uncle Milo became my secret weapon. He helped me gather every scrap of evidence. Old voicemails I'd left, unanswered texts I'd sent, even the chilling "don't reach out" message that I'd kept like a terrible souvenir. He'd meticulously documented his own attempts to reach them and their sudden coldness towards him after he questioned their actions. We met secretly, always in different, out-of-the-way places, sometimes just sitting in his car late at night, whispering. I worked harder than ever, saving every penny, but this time it wasn't just for survival, it was for justice. I felt a strength growing inside me, a quiet determination that replaced the crushing sorrow. The thought of confronting them, of revealing their treachery, fueled me through long, exhausting shifts. When my 20th birthday finally arrived, I didn't celebrate. Instead, I met with Mr. Albright, Uncle Milo by my side. I laid out everything, the timeline of their silence, the unanswered calls, the texts, the testimony from Uncle Milo. Mr. Albright listened carefully, his expression grim. He examined the "don't reach out" text. This is compelling, Audrey, he said, his voice firm. Very compelling. It directly contradicts their claims. And with Milo's corroboration, I believe we have a strong case. The trust will be released to you as intended. A wave of relief, so powerful it almost buckled my knees, washed over me. It wasn't just about the money, it was about being seen, about being vindicated. The shame started to lift, replaced by a quiet sense of triumph. Mr. Albright then explained the next steps. He would contact my family, inform them of the trust's release, and then arrange a meeting. I want to be there, I said, my voice steady. When you tell them, I want to see their faces. A week later, the invitation arrived, a family dinner at my parents' house, supposedly to reconnect after my birthday. A trap, I knew, but I was ready. Uncle Milo met me outside. He gave me a reassuring squeeze on the shoulder. You've got this, kid, he said, a proud glint in his eye. Walking up the familiar driveway, my heart pounded, but it wasn't from fear. It was anticipation. I could hear muffled voices inside. When I opened the front door, the chatter stopped. Mom, Dad, Brenda, and Aunt Bev were all there, arranged on the living room couches, looking stiff and uncomfortable. They all had these fake, tight smiles plastered on their faces. "Audrey, darling, you're here," Mom exclaimed, her voice too high-pitched. She started to move towards me, but I held up a hand. "Don't," I said, my voice clear and even. I noticed the table in the corner was set with a cake and some untouched food. They were playing the part of the welcoming family, hoping to salvage their lies. Their smiles wavered. Dad cleared his throat. "Audrey, we're so glad you came. We've missed you." "Have you?" I asked, stepping further into the room. Uncle Milo entered behind me, his presence a silent accusation. Their eyes darted to him, then back to me, the smiles now completely gone, replaced by a nervous, twitchy apprehension. What's Milo doing here?" Brenda stammered, her face pale. "He's here as a witness," I replied, my gaze sweeping across each of them. "A witness to this farce. You know, I just turned 25. A big day, wouldn't you agree?" Their eyes widened. They knew what that meant. Mr. Albright had already contacted them. They just didn't expect me to be there, not like this. They definitely didn't expect what I held in my hand. From my bag, I pulled out a thick envelope. The air in the room became heavy, suffocating. "Last week, my uncle finally revealed the truth," I stated, my voice echoing in the sudden quiet. "All the years you hid it. The text you sent me, don't reach out. The way you ignored my calls, my messages, my very existence. All of it. You tried to make it look like I abandoned you, didn't you? So you could get your hands on Grandpa's trust fund." Their faces were a canvas of shock and dawning horror. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad looked like he'd seen a ghost. Brenda just stared, her eyes wide with fear. "And last week," I continued, my voice firm, holding up the envelope. They smiled nervously, seeing me walk in with these. I fanned out the papers slightly, enough for them to see the official-looking documents, the numbers, the name. "These are the official trust papers. $2.5 million legally released to me today on my 25th birthday. Because Mr. Albright reviewed all the evidence I provided, the proof that you cut me off, not the other way around." The room fell silent again, save for the soft rustle of the papers in my hand. Their nervous smiles were completely gone, replaced by utter devastation, mixed with a bitter resentment. They looked at each other, then back at me, betrayal etched on their faces, not betrayal by them, but the shock of being caught. My heart, which had been broken for so long, felt a strange mix of sorrow and satisfaction. This wasn't about revenge, it was about claiming my dignity, my truth. They had tried to erase me, but I stood there, undeniably real, undeniably strong, with what was rightfully mine. "This money," I said, my voice softening just a fraction, "it wasn't just a number to Grandpa. It was his way of ensuring I had a future, a secure life. Something you almost took from me, along with my peace and my family." I looked at each of them one last time. "You tried to humiliate me, to make me disappear. But all you did was make me stronger. This isn't just money, it's proof that the truth always comes out." I turned to leave, Uncle Milo by my side. As I reached the door, I paused. "You wanted to know where I was. I was right here, figuring things out. And I'm finally free." I looked at them, their faces a mess of guilt and failed greed. "This money, it's not just a fund anymore. It's my new beginning, a testament to what I overcame. It's what allowed me to stand here today, unbroken. And I hope, for your sake, you learned something from this. Because I certainly did." The door closed softly behind us, leaving them in their silent, self-made prison.